Hi, welcome back to the channel, and thank you for being here and striving with me to recognize and manifest the fact of the one humanity. So, I want to talk for a minute about one of the most fundamental changes moving forward for human beings is to begin to reorient ourselves and recognize that the forms that we take are simply symbols of an inner reality. The inner reality is our consciousness. Our consciousness is also known as the soul of who we are. As we move forward in terms of focusing and changing ourselves and the world in which we live, we will do so by focusing more on changing our inner reality, by focusing on elevating and changing our consciousness. And the reason this is imperative is I think we can see when we look at the world around us, often we know what to do, even in our personal lives. I know many people who want desperately to change themselves, and they have read all the books, they've taken classes, they have checklists, they've hired life coaches, they've done all these things, and yet they cannot seem to manifest the life that they actually want. It's the same thing if we look on a global scale at the world we live in. One of the things that I look at is in 2015, the UN established the Collective World Sustainable Development Goals. If you have some time and you go and check these out and read them, you will see that these make sense. These were agreed upon by all members unanimously of the United Nations. And yet, just last year, the Secretary General stated that he was concerned that we were no closer to making these sustainable development goals a reality than we were in 2015 when they were first introduced. And the end date goal is the year 2030. And so what is it that consistently allows us as human beings to know what we need to do, to know the facts, and still not be able to muster whatever it is within us to make the changes needed? That's the difference in moving forward that becoming conscious, becoming soul conscious will allow us to do. When we raise our consciousness, which is our subjective identity, when we raise our consciousness, when we focus more on our subjective identity, the symbols that we take, meaning the forms that we take as human beings, the form that our world takes, will automatically change for the better. But it starts with recognizing that our primary attention, our primary focus has to be on changing the inner reality. Because what we find for someone who's tried to, change my life in many different ways as I was growing up, I moved to a different city, I get another job, I start dating somebody new. All of these things were an attempt to move to a different and better place in my life. And yet I ended up finding myself in a new city, same circumstances, in a new relationship, same circumstances. None of those things actually manifested the change that I wanted to see in my life. What did begin to manifest that change is when I changed my consciousness, when I focused internally and on my inner world and began to change. And then I didn't worry about changing the outer circumstances. It started to take care of itself. So I moved, but not because I thought if I move, I will have a different opportunity, I will have a different circumstance. When my inner world began to change, I simply moved in alignment with what I was feeling inside. I wasn't running toward anything or running away from something. I simply transitioned into something that was more reflective of my inner reality. It's the same thing in the world. A lot of times we simply move pieces like we're trying to re-engineer a puzzle. And so sometimes Democrats are on top, sometimes Republicans are on top. Sometimes we have one elected official and who we like. Sometimes we have another elected official who we don't like, or some like and some don't like. And we move all these pieces of this puzzle and nothing materially has changed. And I know that because, again, I look at the Sustainable Development Goals that all countries who are part of the UN agreed upon in 2015. And in 2022, actually now in 2023, we are no closer to reaching those goals set out for 2030 than we were in 2015. Many people have been elected to office during that period. Many people have changed their focus. Many businesses have said, yes, we're going to support the Sustainable Development Goals. Cities have, some have hired sustainable development employees to focus on solving this problem. And yet materially, nothing has changed. Things keep heating up. And so the focus for the humanity that is coming into being is to focus within, to understand that trying to change and fix the world that we see visibly is something that can only truly happen if we begin to change ourselves consciously. And then the world will change because it will be a natural reflection of our inner reality, our collective inner reality. That is what the one humanity allows us to begin to do. Each of us taking part in recognizing that we first need to change our own consciousness. And if we do that as a collective whole, we won't have to worry about fixing all of these things in the world in terms of taking a very analytical approach. The world will begin to reflect because it's just a symbol of our inner lives. The world will start to reflect more accurately the people we have become, the humanity we have become within. Namaste.